Moving on, continuing at number 3 in our storylines for the Eastern Conference, it is Philadelphia. Can Philly take the next step in terms of what they're going to do in terms of the playoffs? They're only a couple games back. I believe they're 4 games back of the one seed. Can they make a run and get there? Especially with the play, I think they took a step back at the trade deadline in terms of trading Tyrese Thibault there, really taking away from their defense, which I thought would help them, but they needed. That's a Doc Rivers thing where he doesn't play the young guys, of course. But of course, this team is led by Joel Embiid, who has been a monster this season, has been really dynamic, trying to go for the MVP, and I believe he's third or second right now in the running and playing, but he's playing fantastic with 33 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Getting that type of production from your big man on a nightly basis from inside and outside and from mid range and the ability to get to line. He has been leading the charge, especially when James Harden and Tyrese Maxey missed some time there. I believe nearly 20 games or so while those guys were out, really carrying the load. And kudos to Joel Embiid for playing through that, really helping Philly stay afloat through that time. And of course, you just think about we always think about the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoffs. Or in the past years, they had Ben Simmons. James Harden fell off last year. Joel Embiid casually gets hurt all the time in the playoffs and with weird knick-knack injuries and just unfortunate at certain times. But you're just looking, can they take that next step? Can they be stable enough? Can they have some stability and continue to improve there? Tyrese Maxey has also been awesome for them this season, nearly 20 points per game, and they moved him to the bench just to help the bench there. And it's kind of the crying card of the 76ers is who is going to step up outside of those 3 guys. Tobias Harris has been solid, but I feel like they can get a little bit more production out of him, a little bit more aggressiveness out of him. George Niang stepped up last night in that Bucks game with the Sixers won 133, 130. And you're just wondering where can they get some other pieces here to really help them. You got Daniel House, who they brought in. PJ Tucker's there, more of a defensive enforcer, not really a shooter or scorer. They got Jalen McDaniels, who is okay, I guess, but I felt like that they could have figured out something there. DeAnthony Melton has been a nice addition for them as well. And you're just wondering who else is going to step up on this team to really help them. They went with Dwayne Dedman at the deadline as well, getting him, I believe, in buyouts. So that's a backup big that they can have and plug and play when I guess Joel needs minutes, but needs rest. But you're really just thinking about how far can James Harden and Joel Embiid affect this team and really try to get them going in the playoffs, because they're obviously going to, I believe they're a second round team. Can they get to the Eastern Conference Finals if Joel Embiid and James Harden just dominant? Absolutely. But in their history, that hasn't been the case, of course, with injuries, of course, with shortcomings in the playoffs with James Harden and missing shots and stuff like that. And you're just wondering where can they find any consistency or ability to take that next step. I don't see it on the roster in terms of what's behind them. I feel like their bench is a little weak, but if they can get one or two of those guys like a Shake Milton or George Niang or even Jalen McDaniels to step up and play really well, you're wondering if they can continuously get better. But especially with Joel Embiid, who has been criticized over the past couple of years of playing how he plays, a guy that gets 33 points a game, gets to the line efficiently. It's just like that's not the reason why they lose. I mean, when you look at past playoff blunders, of course, we saw the Ben Simmons situation there, with him not really scoring in the fourth quarter, not being adaptive, not really being able to work on his shot there. Basically 4-on-5 for Philadelphia late in games with Ben Simmons on the floor. We saw last year where James Harden just kind of faltered and fell out. They have to figure out a way to be able to continue to be consistent on that end of the floor. That way, so they can flourish. Especially their defense is going to be there because Joel Embiid is the monster down there. But their offense, they have to figure out a way to get other guys involved so that relieves the pressure off of James Harden, that relieves the pressure off of Joel Embiid. Can enough guys around them knock down shots? PJ Tucker's a corner shooter, that's fine. George Niang is a spot-up shooter. Daniel House is supposed to be a three-point shooter. I feel like they're missing one shooter on this team that can really open up the floor for them. They just haven't been able to find that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this team in the playoffs, but it's just like we got to see what they can do in the playoffs, especially with Joel Embiid and James Harden. Can they lead enough? Can these guys score enough like we saw tonight on a nightly basis to keep Philadelphia afloat? And can other guys knock down enough shots for this team? It's going to be interesting to see how that builds, if they can find somebody that's consistent to end the stretch of the season like a George Niang stepped up tonight. It's going to be interesting to see if that continues. and see what happens in the playoffs, because they're going to have to depend on somebody to knock down shots. And when Joel Embiid and James Harden don't have it going, who else is going to be able to get it going? Tyrese Maxey is going to be there. But they need one more guy there. Is Tobias Harris going to be able to step up? I don't know. And we'll see what happens with Philadelphia moving forward.